2 years ago to the day, Russian forces were descending on this airport north of Kyiv. Today, the wreckage of that battle littered the backdrop as Western leaders came to acclaim once again Ukraine's defiance of Vladimir Putin.
Today, we're here to tell you that Europe will continue to stand at your side for as long as it takes, with more financial support, more ammunition, more training for your troops. There will be a free and sovereign Ukraine.
The Prime Ministers of Italy, Belgium and Canada joined in the collective salute.
Your fight is our fight. You are fighting for your sovereignty, for your territory, for your language, for your culture, for your democracy, but also for our democracy.
It is 2 years since Putin launched his full-scale invasion of Ukraine, as the world watched the unrelenting misery and destruction which ensued. Ukraine's wartime leader then, as now, promises victory. Russian murderers, he declared today, beginning with Putin, will answer for what they've done. As they commemorated Ukrainian resistance this morning, new bilateral security pacts were signed between Ukraine and Italy and Canada. The UK also pledged £245 million in artillery ammunition for Ukraine. But conspicuous by its absence remains a multi-billion-dollar American military aid package currently stalled in Congress.
And I think the thing that I would say to our American friends, and I was in Congress last month and saying this to congressmen and women, is don't do this because it's somehow your duty to come and rescue Europe again and all those reasons, but because it's actually in your own self-interest.
The former Prime Minister Boris Johnson was in Kyiv today, echoing calls for military aid. While on the ground in Ukraine, soldiers continue to bemoan dwindling supplies of ammunition. Our infantry needs to be protected, says this artillery unit commander, adding, "We don't have the shells we need." Meanwhile, Russia releases footage of its defence minister, apparently in Ukraine, claiming the advantage is with them. As last night, their drones hit the port of Odessa again, killing one person reportedly, injuring others. As this war enters a third year, in Ukraine as in Russia, they mourn their many dead. In the centre of Kyiv, the vast human cost of this war is reflected in a sea of flags, amidst glimpses of those they've lost.
I feel very bad because a lot of friends died, a lot. My boyfriend is in the military. It is very difficult. I want all this to stop, and there is hope for that.
In Lviv today, the funerals continue. And despite all the international expressions of solidarity for the people of Ukraine, this war maintains its grip with all the cruelty it brings.
Well, earlier I spoke to Alexander Rodnyansky, who's an advisor to President Zelensky, and I began by asking him what he remembers of the night when the war started.
Yes, it was 4:30 in the morning, and I heard the blasts outside my apartment in the center of Kiev. I remember feeling the vibrations for the first time. Now we've gotten accustomed to it. It happens all the time when you have sirens, when you have attacks from the air. But back then it was obviously something that I hadn't experienced before.
If the US military support doesn't arrive, the war effort is clearly faltering. What does that mean for Ukraine 2 years on?
I wouldn't say that the war effort is faltering, but certainly that is a perilous state for us if we don't get the support and the aid that we need. We have other options of generating the financing, that is through raising taxes, for example, other bitter options that we would be forced to take, in other words, perhaps even monetary means, monetizing some of the debt. Other countries have done that in the past throughout episodes of war. But look, this would be bad news for our economy. There's no secret around that. Certainly, if you ask the general populace, the public in Ukraine, no one wants to give up. So there's no sweet option here. There's no easy way around this. Our people want to continue fighting, liberating the country, freeing our people, There's no way we can just give in.
Those options that you set out to finance the war effort yourselves, are those under active consideration now?
So the government should really comment on that. I know that discussions are taking place because we are forced to consider other options, think about a plan B. But this would have negative repercussions, not just for ourselves, but potentially for all of Europe and the world more generally. There's no question. So hopefully the first best scenario here is if we were to get that funding, if Western powers were to chip in when it comes to questions of their own security, ultimately.
And given the uncertainties over support from the US and the EU, how urgent, in your view, is the need for Ukraine to conscript more soldiers itself?
We have heard the voices, we've heard the position that our military leadership takes. They are saying they need more recruits, they need more people, they need to intensify the mobilization efforts. And that's what's happening in Ukraine. Sure, it's never an easy process. People don't want to die. They don't want to die in vain, especially. But we have to increase mobilization rates, and that's what's happening.
Would you say that support in Zelensky is still strong or fraying now from the public?
If you look at the polls, you see that the support is still there. Overwhelmingly, the people are behind the president. They might go up and down depending on what's happening to the political sort of environment generally, but overwhelmingly the support for the president is still there, and he's representing, you should remember, we have a democratic system, so he's really transmitting the values and the preferences that our people have when it comes to the war effort as well, not just other issues. Perhaps it is true what you're saying. Maybe his support isn't as overwhelming as it was 2 years ago when basically the whole country, almost 100%, were behind the president. Now some people are tired. There's some war fatigue. Again, no secrets around those issues. So maybe that's reflected in some of the polls.
Where do you think this ends? I mean, there's this, Switzerland is planning to hold a peace summit at Ukraine's request. Is there some kind of concession that Ukraine could make in future? Or is your view no concessions, you fight to the end?
Now, of course, we've taken a heavy loss. We've had a lot of soldiers that died. We've had a lot of civilians that died, that were raped, that experienced horrific events. But however, if you look at the polls, if you look at the public's opinion, it's still overwhelmingly in favor of continuing the battle, of making sure we defeat Russia, and that's what's going on. Whether that's going to change at some point, I'm not here to make that statement. I don't know. But it is a war of attrition, and it's horrific. There's no other word to describe it.
If it is, as you say, a war of attrition, if that's what it becomes, is the brutal truth that you really are waiting for Putin to die?
I hope not. I hope not. I hope it happens sooner, but it depends obviously on when he dies. If he dies tomorrow, maybe the war and the victory for Ukraine will come sooner than everybody thinks right now. But that's unlikely to happen, I guess. So who knows? But we need to exert, I will repeat what I said, we need to make sure we do everything at our disposal that we can be victorious as soon as we can. Obviously, we don't want to lose people indefinitely. There's no way to continue like that. At some point, there's always an ending to the war, and we need to make sure it's on our terms and on the terms of the Western civilization. Otherwise, who knows what springs from this?
Alexander Rodniansky, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.